My sister stole my fiancé on the day of his proposal. I caught them kissing in the shadows. You were never good enough for him. But when I revealed the truth at his charity gala, revenge tastes sweeter than wedding cake. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. I stared at the empty champagne glasses, arranged in perfect rows across the pristine white tablecloth. Each one caught the sunset's glow from the rooftop venue, creating these tiny, beautiful prisms of light that should have been magical. Instead, they mocked me with their emptiness. My name is Audrey Caldwell, and I run my own event planning company, Caldwell Events. I'd spent the last 3 weeks, night and day, planning what was supposed to be the perfect proposal dinner. The funny thing, the horribly ironic thing, was that it wasn't my proposal I was planning. Or so I thought. My boyfriend of 2 years, Garrett, had hired my own company to orchestrate his grand gesture. He'd made the booking through my assistant, thinking he was being clever, not knowing I'd seen the name on the contract and personally taken over every single detail. I wanted it to be perfect. The flowers, the string quartet, the 5-course meal. I'd even picked out the vintage Dom Perignon he loved. I thought it was all for some high-level client, a big promotion celebration, maybe. I never once suspected it was for me. The catering manager, a nervous man named Mr. Henderson, approached, wringing his hands. Ms. Caldwell, the guests are getting restless. It's 7:40. Should we begin serving the appetizers? I checked my phone. Again. The screen was black. No messages. No calls. Just the time, 7:45 p.m. Garrett was now 45 minutes late to his own proposal dinner. Give it 5 more minutes, Mr. Henderson, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. That was the event planner in me. Always calm, always in control. 20 of our closest friends and family members were waiting. My parents were gone, I'll get to that, but his parents were there, looking confused. And my best friend, Meredith, was by the bar, lowering her camera. She was our designated photographer for the evening. Audrey, honey, she whispered, walking over. Her heels clicked nervously on the terrace stone. You look stunning in that navy dress, but maybe you should try calling him again? I already did, I murmured, smoothing down the cocktail dress. It was a nervous habit I'd developed over years of managing crisis moments. A lost wedding cake, a groom with cold feet, a sudden rainstorm. I'd handled it all. But this was different. This wasn't a client. This was personal. My phone buzzed in my hand. Finally. My heart gave a stupid little leap. But instead of Garrett's name, I saw a text message. Just a text. Can't make it. Something came up. Sorry. 7 words. 7 stupid words to demolish 3 weeks of planning and 2 years of trust. The blood drained from my face. I could feel the cold prickle on my skin, even on the warm evening. Meredith saw my expression and her own face hardened. What? What did he say? I couldn't speak. I just held out the phone. That's it, she hissed, her voice low. That's all? I took a deep breath, the event planner mask sliding firmly into place. I turned to the small crowd. I tapped a champagne glass with a spoon. The light, clear ding cut through the anxious murmuring. He's not coming, I announced. My voice was loud. Clear. It carried across the expectant silence. The string quartet I'd hired stopped mid-song, their bows hovering uncertainly over their instruments. Garrett's mother let out a little gasp. My younger sister, Delilah, rushed over. Her green eyes were wide, but it wasn't just surprise. It looked almost like panic. What do you mean he's not coming, Audrey? Did he say why? Did something happen? I just handed her my phone, watching her face. I saw it. I know I saw it. A flicker of, was it guilt? Or maybe relief? It was gone in a second, replaced by a mask of sisterly concern. "Oh, Audrey, this isn't like him," she said, but her voice wavered, just slightly. "Isn't it?" Meredith cut in, her tone sharp as glass. She'd never fully warmed to Garrett, despite my attempts to bring them closer. She always said he was too smooth. Now, I wondered if she'd seen something I'd been blind to. The next hour was a blur. It was the most humiliating, professionally damaging hour of my life. I maintained my smile. I went to every table. I apologized. I thanked them for coming. I assured them everything was fine, just a terrible misunderstanding. I even managed to get the staff to pack up the 5-course meal into to-go containers for the guests. Waste not, want not, right? It wasn't until the last guest, Garrett's own confused mother, had left that I allowed myself to sink into one of the empty, ghost-white chairs. "I'll handle the vendors," Meredith offered, squeezing my shoulder. "You should go home." "I'll take her," Delilah said quickly. A little too quickly. "No," I said, standing up. I gathered my composure around me like armor. "I need to stay. This is still my event, even if it's turned into a disaster. I have to oversee the breakdown." "Audrey." Delilah started, reaching for my arm. I pulled away. "I'm fine. Really. Just, give me a minute alone. Both of you. Please." They retreated, looking back with worried glances. I was left alone on the rooftop I had chosen so carefully for this moment. The perfect backdrop for a perfect proposal. What a joke! I sat there for a long time, just watching the crew stack chairs and fold tablecloths. The silence of the cleanup was somehow louder than the music had been. After about 30 minutes, I took a service elevator down to the garage, avoiding the main lobby. I couldn't face anyone. I got in my car, and the silence was deafening. I just sat there, in the dark, underground garage. I didn't cry. I was just empty. Numb. That 7-word text message just played over and over in my head. "Can't make it. Something came up. Sorry." I finally started the car and drove home. The streets were busy, people were heading out for their Friday night, laughing, holding hands. It felt like I was in a different world. I got home to my apartment, the one Garrett had a key to. The one where he kept a change of clothes. I walked in, and everything was just as we'd left it that morning. His coffee cup was still in the sink. I didn't turn on the lights. I just walked to the sofa, still in my navy cocktail dress and heels, and sat down. I sat there in the dark for an hour. Maybe 2. Just staring at the wall. The numbness was wearing off, and underneath it was this cold, creeping dread. Then my phone buzzed again. Another text from Garrett. "We need to talk. Tomorrow. Lunch." I typed back a single word, my thumb shaking. "Where?" His response came immediately. "Our usual place. 1 p.m. Our usual place. The little Italian cafe where we'd had our first date 2 years ago. Where he'd first told me he loved me over a shared tiramisu. Where, apparently, he was planning to officially end things. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? You don't skip your own proposal dinner, humiliate your girlfriend in front of everyone, unless you've changed your mind about the whole thing. As I finally stood up, my joints stiff, I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. I glanced out my window, down at the street. My apartment building had a small, private garden in the back, visible from my unit. And that's when I saw her. Delilah. She was standing in the shadows of the garden, hidden from the streetlights, her back to me. She was on her phone, her gestures sharp and angry. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I could see her silhouette pacing back and forth. Then she stopped, and even from that distance, I could see her shoulders slump, like she was crying? Or just upset. She must have felt me watching. She looked up, right at my window. She couldn't have seen me in the dark, but she quickly ended the call, shoving the phone into her purse. She plastered on a smile that didn't reach her eyes, gave a little wave up at my window, and then hurried away. That's when I knew. This wasn't just a change of heart. This wasn't just cold feet. Something was wrong. Something was rotten. And tomorrow at lunch, I was going to find out exactly how much of my life had been built on lies. I didn't sleep. How could I? I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the numbers on the clock glowing red, mocking me. 3:17 a.m. 4:22 a.m. 5:03 a.m. At 6 a.m., I gave up. I got up and took a shower, standing under the scalding hot water until my skin was red, trying to wash away the feeling of humiliation. Of being a fool. Meredith called around 8 a.m. "How are you?" she asked, her voice soft. I don't know what I am, Mare, I said, pacing my kitchen, a cold cup of coffee in my hand. He wants to meet for lunch. Our place. The cafe? Oh, Audrey, that bastard, she spat. Let me come with you. I'll sit in the corner. I don't trust him. No, I said, my voice firm. This is something I have to do alone. But Mare, last night. Delilah. She was off. I told her about the look on Delilah's face, the flicker of relief. And then I told her about the phone call in the garden. Delilah? Meredith was silent for a moment. Audrey, I don't want to make things worse, but you know she's been freelancing for that new consulting firm, right? The one that Garrett's company uses? Yeah, I said slowly. Blaine Sterling Consulting. She said the salary was amazing, way more than she was making at her old graphic design job. Well, Meredith said, her voice hesitant. I've been doing some digging. Just be careful, Audrey. I think this is bigger than you. The familiar warmth of the cafe felt foreign now, like walking into a childhood home that had been redecorated by strangers. I arrived 15 minutes early, at 12:45 p.m. I watched Garrett's usual parking spot through the window. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, so I gripped my coffee cup, letting the heat burn my palms. I'd spent the morning piecing together a timeline of strange occurrences. Garrett's sudden business trips in the last few months. Delilah's evasive behavior. The way they both seemed to disappear at the same time during social events. I'd always dismissed it. He was busy. She was Delilah, always a little flaky. Now it all looked different. Sinister. Garrett walked in at exactly 1 p.m. Impeccable, as always, in a tailored suit. The same suit he should have worn to propose to me in. He looked tired, but his expression was carefully neutral. Audrey, he said, sliding into the seat across from me. Garrett. About last night. He started, steepling his fingers. Save it, I cut him off. My voice was cold, flat. I didn't recognize it. Just tell me why. He leaned back, studying me with those calculating blue eyes I used to find so captivating. Now, they just looked empty. Things have been complicated lately, Audrey. I needed time to think. Complicated? I let out a sharp, bitter laugh that made the woman at the next table look up. You had me plan my own humiliation. You let me stand in front of 20 of our closest friends, my sister, your parents, and look like a complete and utter fool. That's not complicated, Garrett. That's cruel. A flash of something crossed his face. Maybe it was remorse. Or maybe I just wanted to see it. I never meant for you to be involved in the planning, he said, his voice low. That was unfortunate. Unfortunate, I repeated the word. It tasted like ash in my mouth. Like, how unfortunate it is that my sister keeps showing up at your office after hours. His composure cracked. Just for a second. A slight widening of the eyes. A quick, tight clench of his jaw. Delilah has been helping with some graphic design work. You knew that. Did I? I pulled out my phone. Meredith had been busy. Because these don't look like business meetings, Garrett. I slid the phone across the table. The images were grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough. Garrett and Delilah entering his office building at 9 p.m. last Thursday. Leaving separately, just after midnight. Nothing definitively damning. But enough. His face hardened. You're having me followed now? No. But apparently, I should have been, I said, standing up. My chair scraped loudly against the tile floor. You know what's really unfortunate, Garrett? That I had to hear about your lunch with Lorraine from the catering staff at LeBlanc. This time, his mask slipped completely. His face went pale. How did you? I own an event planning company, remember? People talk to me. My network is my life. I gathered my purse, my hands shaking, but my voice was steady. Especially when they see my fiancé having a very intimate, hands-on-the-table lunch with his ex-girlfriend the day before he's supposed to propose to me. It's not what you think, Audrey. Lorraine and I. Save it, I said, my voice breaking just a little. Save the explanation for Delilah. I'm sure she'll be very interested to hear all about Lorraine. I turned to leave. He grabbed my wrist. His grip was tight, painful. Audrey, wait. There are things you don't understand. I yanked my arm free, a hot, furious energy surging through me. You're right. I don't understand how my sister could do this. I don't understand how you could make me look like a fool in front of everyone we know. But mostly, I leaned in, my voice dropping to a whisper, I don't understand why you're still lying when we both know it's over. I walked out. My heels clicked against the tile floor, a sharp, angry rhythm counting down the seconds of our relationship. Outside, the sunlight was blinding. I fumbled for my sunglasses, my hands shaking again. And then I saw her. Delilah. Waiting in her car across the street. She didn't see me. She was too focused on her phone, probably waiting for Garrett's signal that the coast was clear. My own phone buzzed. A text from Meredith. Found something. Come to my studio. Now. It's bad. I took one last look at the cafe window. Garrett was already on his phone. Probably warning Delilah that I knew something. Let them scramble. Let them try to cover their tracks. They didn't know what I knew now. They didn't know about Lorraine. And judging by Meredith's text, there was even more they didn't know I was about to find out. I got into my car, the time for tears and confusion was over. Now, it was time to plan. Not a proposal. Something else entirely. Meredith's photography studio felt like a crime scene when I walked in. But it wasn't a conspiracy board, not yet. It was just organized chaos. Meredith was a data head, and her real passion wasn't just taking photos, it was the information behind the photos. Documents and printouts were stacked neatly on every surface. She stood in the center, her camera forgotten around her neck, staring at her laptop. You look awful, she said, by way of greeting. I feel awful, I replied, dropping my purse. He lied. Right to my face. And Delilah was waiting for him across the street. I'm not surprised, AUD. About either of them, Meredith said, turning back to her screen. Garrett's company has been hemorrhaging money for months. But look where it's going. She pointed to the screen. It was a series of bank statements. Regular transfers, huge sums of money moving from Garrett's investment firm to an offshore account. And each transfer coincided perfectly with a payment from Blaine Sterling's consulting firm. What does that mean? I asked, my head pounding. Blaine is paying Garrett? No, Meredith said, pulling up another file. Blaine is the middleman. He's getting money from somewhere and funneling it to Garrett, making it look like legitimate consulting fees. But that's not the something I found. My stomach dropped. What, then? I looked into Lorraine. His ex-girlfriend. The one you saw him with. What about her? Meredith took a deep breath. Audrey, she's dead. The words hit me like a physical blow. I grabbed the nearest stool, my knees buckling. What? What do you mean, dead? He was with her 2 days ago. No, he wasn't, Meredith said softly. He was with someone who looks like her. But Lorraine died 6 months ago. She handed me a printed newspaper clipping. It was a small article from a local paper. Woman dies in tragic bridge accident. Lorraine Vance, age 34. Her car had gone off the old mill bridge. Brake failure. I don't understand. Look at the date, Audrey. I scanned the article. My blood ran cold. The accident was dated 2 days after a formal complaint had been filed with the SEC. A complaint threatening to expose Garrett's business practices. There's more, Meredith said, her voice grim. She clicked a file, and an audio waveform popped up on her screen. Lorraine was smart. She was terrified. She sent copies of everything she had to multiple people. Insurance. I tracked down one of them. A former colleague. She pressed play. A voice, shaky but determined, filled the studio. It was Lorraine's. Garrett, I know what you and Blaine are planning. Using Delilah, using her to get to Audrey's client list, that's low, even for you. But the SEC fraud, the college funds you're draining from those elderly clients, that's what's going to bury you. I'm meeting them tomorrow. I'm telling them everything. Unless. The message cut off. The next day, her car went off a bridge. I couldn't breathe. My mind was racing, trying to connect the dots. Garrett, my Garrett, was a monster. A fraudster. A murderer? And Delilah, my sister, was his accomplice, used to get to my clients. The clients I had spent years building trust with. How could Delilah? Maybe she didn't know, Meredith offered, though she didn't sound convinced. Maybe she just thought she was doing graphic design work, like she told you. Blaine and Garrett they're professionals at this, Audrey. My phone buzzed. A message from Delilah. Please talk to me. It's not what you think. Oh, it's exactly what I think, I muttered, silencing the phone. There was a knock at the studio door. A timid knock. We both froze. Through the frosted glass, I recognized Delilah's silhouette. Don't, Meredith warned, putting a hand on my arm. Audrey, she could be dangerous. She's with them. She's my sister, I said, shaking her hand off. And she's going to tell me the truth. I ripped open the door. Delilah stood there, mascara streaked down her face, her eyes puffy and red. She looked like a child. Audrey, thank God, she sobbed, rushing to hug me. I put my hand on her chest, stopping her. How long, Delilah? What? She sniffled, looking confused. What are you talking about? I saw you leave the cafe. Garrett called me. He said you two broke up. He said you're upset about us. Us? I laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. How long have you been helping him steal my clients? Her face crumpled. It wasn't like that. I swear. Blaine said it was just market research. He said Garrett's company was looking to expand and they needed competitor analysis. He paid me so well, Audrey. I needed the money. My student loans, my credit card. Market research? I spat. Is that what you call sleeping with my fiancé, too? Delilah flinched, as if I'd slapped her. That only happened once, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I was drunk, at the company party, and he was so charming, and I felt. I don't know, I felt so important, and he said you two were fighting. I'm so sorry, Audrey. I swear it meant nothing. Save it, I said, stepping back into the studio. Did you know about Lorraine? The color drained from her face. Who's Lorraine? His ex-girlfriend. The one he was having lunch with 2 days ago. I don't know what you're. She's dead, Delilah, I said, my voice flat. She died 6 months ago. Convenient timing, don't you think? Right after she threatened to expose him. No. Delilah shook her head violently, her hands flying to her mouth. No. You're lying. Garrett wouldn't. He wouldn't. Wouldn't he? I grabbed the accident report from Meredith's desk and shoved it into her hands. Blaine told you she moved to Europe, didn't he? That's what Garrett told me. He lied, Delilah. Just like he's lying to you. She swayed, grabbing the doorframe to steady herself. I didn't know, she whispered, her eyes wide with genuine terror. I swear, Audrey. I didn't know about any of this, about the fraud, about that. I just thought. Get out, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Audrey, please, let me help. We can go to the police. Get out! I roared, the sound ripping from my throat. I slammed the door in her face, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the lock. I leaned against the door, my whole body trembling. I could hear her sobbing on the other side, begging me to let her in. Meredith touched my shoulder. Her touch was gentle. What are you going to do, Audrey? I stared at the web of evidence before me. The bank statements. The accident report. Lorraine's final, desperate warning. All the pieces of a puzzle I never, ever wanted to solve. First, I said, pulling out my phone, I'm going to call the SEC myself. I'm going to send them everything Lorraine had, and more. And then? And then, I said, my voice hardening into something I didn't recognize, I'm going to destroy everything they've built. Their reputations. Their business. Their perfect, sociopathic little scheme. Audrey, Meredith's voice was careful, that could get dangerous. If they really had something to do with Lorraine's death, they won't hesitate to hurt you. Then they should have thought of that, I said, gathering the documents, before they involved my sister. My phone lit up. A new text. From Garrett. We need to talk. All of us. Tonight. Let's clear the air. I showed it to Meredith. She shook her head. It's a trap, AUD. They know Delilah came here. They know you're suspicious. Of course it is, I said. I texted back a simple reply. LeBlanc. 8 p.m. LeBlanc? Meredith's eyes widened. The restaurant where he met Lorraine's double? Where the staff saw him. The very same, I said. Let them think they have the upper hand. Let them think they can still control this situation. I had evidence of their fraud. I had Lorraine's final message. And I had absolutely nothing left to lose. By the time this night was over, they were going to learn what it really meant to trust the wrong person. I spent the next few hours in a blur. I went home, showered again, and changed. I didn't put on armor this time. I put on a bright red dress. The one Garrett had always said made me look dangerous. I felt cold. Utterly, terrifyingly cold and calm. I created a new email account, a secure one. I methodically uploaded every file Meredith had given me. The bank statements, the offshore account numbers, the audio file of Lorraine's voice, the accident report, the SEC complaint. I saved it all as a draft, addressed to Detective Kowalski at the local PD, a woman Meredith knew through her press work, and to the main inbox of the SEC. I put a small, high-fidelity audio recorder in my clutch. The same kind I used to record client consultations. Meredith texted me as I was walking out the door. Be careful. I'm tracking your phone. If you're not out by 10, I'm calling Kowalski myself. I'm counting on it, I replied. LeBlanc's elegant interior felt like a stage set. Every server, every guest, was a potential witness. I arrived early, just as I'd planned, and chose a corner table. It gave me a clear view of both entrances. The maitre d', who knew me well from my events, looked at me with pity. He must have heard about last night. A quiet table, Ms. Caldwell? He'd asked. The quietest you have, Jean-Pierre, I'd said. Blaine arrived first, sliding into the seat across from me without an invitation. His usual charm was gone, replaced by something hard and ugly. You need to stop digging, he said. No hello. No small talk. Interesting opening line, I said, sipping my water. I studied him over the rim. No, hello, Audrey? No, sorry your fiancé is a sociopath? Lorraine should have stopped digging, too, he said, his voice a low growl. The threat hung in the air between us, thick and toxic. I set my glass down, very carefully. I noted how his left hand kept twitching toward the inside of his jacket pocket. You know what's fascinating, Blaine? How someone so careful, so meticulous, could leave such a messy paper trail. Or, maybe it wasn't you. Maybe Garrett is just sloppy. I wanted to plant that seed of doubt. Let them turn on each other. His jaw tightened. Whatever you think you found. Table for two, Delilah's voice cut through our tension. She stood there, looking pale and terrified, with Garrett right behind her, his hand possessively on her lower back. She was wearing her favorite blue dress, the one I'd bought her for her last birthday. The sight of it made my stomach twist. Isn't this cozy? Garrett said, pulling out Delilah's chair with a flourish. The gesture was familiar. Practiced. How long had they been rehearsing these little moments? Almost like family, I agreed, my voice sweet as poison. Speaking of which, how's your mother, Blaine? Still managing that bridge club down in Miami? The color drained from his face. I'd struck a nerve. Meredith had found that, too. The woman he called Mom in Miami wasn't his mother. His real mother had died 10 years ago. This woman was a replacement, an accomplice. Just like the woman playing Lorraine. He recognized the threat. He knew I knew everything. We should order, Garrett suggested smoothly, but his knuckles were white as he gripped his menu. Actually, I smiled, I already ordered for everyone. I hope you don't mind. I know all your favorites, after all. Delilah shifted uncomfortably. Audrey, please, she whispered, can we just talk about this? Like adults? Like the adults who orchestrated a 2-year con to access my client list? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through messages I'd found from Delilah to Garrett. Fake, of course. But they didn't know that. Or the adults who've been systematically draining those clients' accounts through fake investment schemes? It's more complicated than that, Garrett started. It always is, I said, looking directly at Delilah. Her eyes were brimming with tears. Remember when Mom and Dad died, Delilah? Remember how complicated things were then? How we promised we'd always protect each other. No matter what. Tears welled in her eyes. Audrey, I never meant. I didn't know. You didn't mean to sleep with my fiancé? You didn't mean to help him steal from people who trusted me? I said, my voice rising. The waiter arrived, saving her from answering. He placed 4 plates on the table. 4 plates of seafood linguine. Blaine's hand jerked so violently he knocked over his water glass. It shattered on the floor. Garrett froze, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. Is something wrong? I asked, all innocence. I thought everyone liked seafood. It was Lorraine's go-to order here, wasn't it? Enough games, Audrey. Garrett snapped, his voice cracking. What do you want? What do I want? I leaned forward. I want my sister back. I want the last 2 years of my life back. I want the clients you defrauded to get their college funds back. But since that's impossible, I continued, I'll settle for watching you lose everything. Instead. You don't want to do this, Blaine warned, his hand inching toward his jacket again. Actually, I do. But first. I turned to Delilah, my voice softening. Did they tell you about the insurance policy, honey? The one that paid out after Lorraine's accident? Delilah frowned, wiping her eyes. What insurance policy? The one in your name. I pulled a document from my clutch and slid it across the table. Meredith had found it in a public records search. Signed 3 days before Lorraine's car went off that bridge. With you, as the sole beneficiary. The color drained from her face as she read it. Her own name. Her own, forged, signature. I never signed this, she whispered, her hands shaking. No, I agreed softly. You didn't. The pieces were falling into place behind her eyes. The forged signature. The convenient timing. The way Blaine had insisted she start working with them, giving them all her personal information for payroll. Garrett reached for the paper, but Delilah snatched it back. What did you do? She whispered, looking between him and Blaine. What did you do? Delilah, baby, let me explain. Blaine started, his charming smile back in place. Don't call me that, she shrieked, standing up so abruptly her chair scraped against the floor. Don't you ever call me that again. She ran out of the restaurant, sobbing. Garrett and Blaine exchanged a look. A look of pure panic. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd used my sister as an unwitting accomplice, as a patsy in a murder-for-hire plot. I stood up, dropping several $100 bills on the table. Dinner's on me, gentlemen. Consider it a parting gift. This isn't over, Audrey. Garrett called after me, his voice a low hiss. I turned back at the door, meeting his gaze. No, it's not. But now Delilah knows what you really are. And that's just the beginning. I walked out into the cool night air, my heart pounding, but my hands were steady. I got into my car and clicked the stop button on the audio recorder in my clutch. I had every word. I drove. Not home. Not to Meredith's. I just drove. The adrenaline from the confrontation at LeBlanc was wearing off, and in its place was a bone-deep cold. I had them. The insurance policy was the final nail. Delilah was my witness, whether she wanted to be or not. I was driving through the quiet, wealthy suburbs when my phone rang. It was Meredith. Her voice was tight, panicked. Audrey. Where are you? I'm fine, Mare. It worked. They're terrified. I got it all on tape. Delilah's on our side now, she. Audrey, stop talking, Meredith cut in. Someone broke into my studio. My blood turned to ice. What? Are you okay? I'm fine, I wasn't there. I'm at my apartment. But Audrey, they took everything. The hard drives, the files, the audio backups. All the Lorraine evidence is gone. They couldn't have. They did. It wasn't a smash and grab. It was clean. Professional. They knew what they were looking for. But AUD, they left something. Left something? What? Meredith was quiet for a second. I heard her take a shaky breath. They left a photo. An old 8 by 10 photo. On my desk. A photo of what? Your parents' car accident. The world tilted. I had to pull the car over, slamming on the brakes. I was shaking, a violent, uncontrollable tremor. What did you say? Audrey, she said, her voice full of pity, it's the accident. The aftermath. And someone wrote on it. In red marker. Twice. Twice, I whispered. The word from Blaine. Brake lines, how easily they can fail. Twice. Audrey, that accident was never explained, Meredith said, her voice low. A brake failure on a clear day. Both of them, gone, just like that. After the funeral. I remember the lawyer told you and Delilah the inheritance was almost nothing. That your dad's business partner had somehow leveraged everything. My mind flashed back. A memory, buried for 8 years. Garrett, I whispered. His first job right out of college. His mentor. The man who gave him his start. Who? Meredith asked. My dad's old business partner. The one who took over the company. The web wasn't just 2 years old. It was almost a decade old. My parents, they hadn't died in an accident. They were the first. Get out of there, Mare, I said, my voice hardening. Take Delilah, where is she? She showed up at my door, hysterical. She's here. Good. Take her and go to the lake house. Now. Already on our way, she finished. The lake house was our emergency spot. Off the grid. Where we'd hidden after our parents died. Only family knew about it. I ended the call, my mind racing. They had the evidence. But I had the SEC documents I'd drafted. I had the original recording from LeBlanc in my clutch. And I had the truth about my parents. I was parked in front of Garrett's high-rise office building. I'd driven there on autopilot. I was staring up at the lights in his corner office, watching him pace back and forth on his phone. One email from me. One call to Kowalski. A tap on my window made me jump so hard I screamed. Blaine. He stood there, hands in his pockets, smiling that awful, charming smile, like we were meeting for coffee. I rolled down the window an inch. The air was cold. Following me now? I asked. Just making sure you don't do anything rash, he said. He glanced at the SEC documents on my passenger seat. Like sending those to the wrong people. You mean the right people, I snapped. He leaned closer, his smile dropping. You know what's interesting about brake lines, Audrey? I told you. They fail. So easily. And it's so hard to prove it wasn't just bad luck. The threat was clear. My parents. Me. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but my voice was ice. Get in. He blinked. What? Get in the car, Blaine. You want to talk? Let's talk. You want to threaten me? Do it properly. He hesitated. He looked at me, at the fury in my eyes. He must have thought I was a broken, hysterical woman. He must have thought he was in control. He smiled, a slow, predatory smile. All right, he said. He walked around to the passenger side. The second his door clicked shut, I hit the accelerator. The tires shrieked as I peeled out of the parking spot, throwing him back against the seat. What are you doing? He yelled, grabbing the dashboard as I swerved through traffic, running a red light. Taking us somewhere private. I yelled back. I turned onto the highway ramp, pushing the speedometer up. 80, 90. Are you insane? Slow down. His composure was gone. He was terrified. Why? Scared of accidents, Blaine? I changed lanes aggressively, cutting off a truck, which blared its horn. Tell me about my parents. I don't know what you're talking about. 8 years ago. Before you met Garrett. You worked at the garage that serviced their car. The one owned by my dad's partner. He went very still. How did you? Lorraine didn't just keep records on Garrett. She had files on everyone. She was building a case for years. I took a sharp exit, the tires screaming in protest. Including the mechanic who inspected their car and signed off on the brakes 2 days before they died. Pull over. Pull the damn car over, Audrey. No. I pressed harder on the gas. First, you're going to call Garrett. Put him on speaker. Now. You're insane. Maybe. I swerved again, making him grab the door handle. But I'm also the one driving. Make the call, Blaine. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely dial. The phone rang once, twice. Where are you? Garrett demanded, his voice frantic. With your ex-fiancée, Blaine spat, his voice trembling, who's apparently lost her mind. Having fun yet, Garrett? I shouted over the engine noise. Because I am. Nothing like a nice drive to clear the head. Maybe we'll check the brakes when we stop, if we stop. Audrey. Garrett's voice turned serious. Audrey, listen to me. Whatever you think you know. I know everything. I took another turn, way too fast. We were heading out of the city, toward the old mill bridge. I know about Lorraine. I know about my parents. I know about how you used my sister to cover your tracks. The only question is, what am I going to do about it? Silence. Just the roar of the wind and Blaine's ragged breathing. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, my voice dangerously calm. You're going to transfer back every penny you stole. From my clients, from Lorraine's family, from my inheritance. You're going to confess to Lorraine's murder and my parents' murder. And you are going to leave my sister alone. Forever. Or what? Garrett asked, his voice full of static. I laughed. The sound was hollow, terrifying, even to my own ears. Or I drive this car off the same bridge where Lorraine died. With your partner in crime right here beside me. Your choice. Blaine's face went ashen. He looked out the windshield. We were approaching the bridge. Its old, rusted guardrails were gleaming in the moonlight. The same guardrails that had failed to stop Lorraine's car. You wouldn't, Garrett said, but for the first time, uncertainty crept into his voice. Wouldn't I? I said, my foot pressing the accelerator harder. You killed my parents. You used my sister. You stole my life. Maybe it's time someone showed you what real revenge looks like. The bridge loomed ahead. Tick-tock, boys, I said softly. What's it going to be? The charity gala sparkled with false promises. Just like everything else in my life had. It was 2 nights later. The Heroes for Children ball, Garrett's pet charity. The pinnacle of his fake, philanthropic public image. I stood at the podium, looking out over the 300 of the city's elite. They were all there. The bankers, the politicians, the old money families. All the people who had trusted Garrett. All the people who had looked down on me as just the pretty little event planner. I saw him and Delilah enter, arm in arm. His practice. Her, hostage. Her face was pale, her eyes darting around. He'd forced her to come. To maintain the illusion. Their practice smiles never reached their eyes. The entire ballroom turned to watch them. They had no idea they were about to witness something far more entertaining than another engagement announcement. My hands were steady. The USB drive in my palm felt heavy. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, my voice clear and strong, amplified by the microphone. Thank you for coming. Tonight, we're here to talk about trust. Garrett's head snapped up. His eyes met mine across the ballroom. He knew. Of course he knew. He'd agreed to all my terms on that frantic phone call. Transferred the money. Written a confession. He thought I'd take the win and disappear. He didn't know me at all. Trust in our financial institutions, I continued, clicking to the first slide. A graph showing his company's returns. Trust in our loved ones. Another click. Lorraine's accident report. Huge, on the screen, for everyone to see. And trust in justice. Gasps rippled through the crowd as bank statements replaced the report. Millions in fraudulent transfers. Arrows pointing to offshore accounts. Garrett started moving toward the stage, his face a thundercloud. But the security guards, hired by me, not by him, blocked his path. My former fiancé, Garrett Sterling, I said, my voice carrying over the growing murmurs, and his associate, Blaine Sterling, who is also here tonight, have been running an elaborate Ponzi scheme through their investment firm for nearly a decade. They've stolen from their clients, I went on, my voice rising, drained their retirement accounts, their college funds, their life savings. But that, I said, my voice dropping, is not their worst crime. Delilah stood frozen, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers. The crash echoed through the suddenly silent room. 8 years ago, they orchestrated a car accident. A brake failure. That killed 2 people. My parents. Photos of my parents, smiling, flashed on the screen. The room erupted. And 6 months ago, I pressed on, they murdered a woman named Lorraine Vance, to cover their tracks. Chaos. Absolute chaos. Phones came out, recording everything. Garrett, his face contorted with a rage I'd never seen, shoved past the security guards. You have no proof, he snarled, lunging for the podium, for me. I held up the small USB drive. I have every proof, Garrett. The confessions. The bank records. The audio files. All of which, I smiled, have already been sent to the SEC, the FBI, and every major news outlet in the city. You're finished. You bitch, he hissed, his mask completely gone. You're destroying everything. Like you destroyed my family? I shot back. The sound of breaking glass cut through the commotion. Blaine. He had Delilah by the arm, dragging her toward a side exit. Tell them, he ordered, his voice frantic. Tell them it's all lies, Delilah. But Delilah pulled away, tears streaming down her face. I can't, she sobbed. I can't, not anymore. Then you'll go down with us. Blaine reached into his jacket. I saw it before anyone else. The glint of metal. The way his body tensed. No! I screamed, lunging toward them. The gunshot was deafening. Screams. People rushed for the exits. I saw Delilah fall, a dark, red bloom spreading across the blue dress I'd bought her. My feet moved before my brain could process. No, 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 no. I dropped to my knees beside her, pressing my hands against the wound in her shoulder. Her blood was warm, sticky, seeping between my fingers. Stay with me, Delilah. Stay with me, please. I'm sorry, she whispered, her face pale, her eyes fluttering. I didn't know about Mom and Dad. I'm so sorry, AUD. Garrett's laughter cut through the chaos. It was a cold, chilling sound. He stood over us, and he had another gun. One I hadn't known about. Always trying to save each other. How touching. It's over, Garrett. I screamed, shielding Delilah with my body. You're surrounded. Maybe, he said, aiming the gun right at my head. But you won't be around to see how it ends. He smiled. His finger tightened on the trigger. If you're still listening, could you do me a huge favor and like this video and comment the number 1 down below? It lets me know you amazing people are still here with me on this journey. Your support means the world to me and keeps me going. Please, comment with the number 1 so I can see you, and now, let me tell you what happened next. A second shot rang out. I flinched, bracing for the impact. But it wasn't me. It was Garrett. He stumbled backward, clutching his arm, the gun clattering to the marble floor. Meredith stood in the doorway, her camera forgotten, holding a security guard's weapon. Her hands were shaking, but her aim had been true. Actually, she said, her voice trembling but fierce, I think we all will. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. I held my sister, my ear pressed to her chest, feeling her faint, shallow breaths. I watched my carefully orchestrated revenge crumble into something messier, more violent, and more horrible than I had ever planned. Delilah's blood was seeping into my red dress, a stark reminder that vengeance, it always demands its own price. The evidence. Garrett groaned from the floor, clutching his arm. It's circumstantial. The confession was coerced. You've got nothing. She has me. The voice cut through the room. The crowd parted. A woman I'd never seen before, yet knew intimately, stepped through. Her face was scarred, the left side pulled tight from skin grafts. But her eyes were unmistakable. Lorraine? I whispered. Very much alive, she said, her voice raspy. She looked at Garrett with a hatred that made my own look pale. The accident, the woman in that burning car, it was my twin sister. They couldn't tell us apart. They thought they'd killed me. They confirmed my identity and closed the case. And I have spent the last 6 months gathering everything. My victory should have felt sweet. But watching Delilah, so pale from blood loss, seeing the wreckage of lives scattered across that beautiful ballroom floor, I realized revenge wasn't the clean, satisfying thing I'd imagined. It was messy. It was costly. And it left scars that might never heal. Paramedics rushed in, finally, pushing me out of the way to get to Delilah. Police officers began securing the scene, cuffing a screaming Garrett, a silent Blaine. I caught my reflection in a shattered champagne glass on the floor. I barely recognized the person staring back. Someone who'd become as calculating, as ruthless, as the people she'd sought to destroy. The question wasn't whether I'd won. The question was what I'd lost along the way. The hospital corridor stretched endlessly, all white walls and the smell of antiseptic. I followed Detective Kowalski, her sensible shoes squeaking on the polished floor. Through the window of Delilah's room, I could see Meredith standing guard, her camera, as always, at the ready. Delilah was sleeping. The bullet had gone clean through her shoulder. She was going to be fine. "We've got them both in custody, Ms. Caldwell," Detective Kowalski said, stopping at the door. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a firm set to her jaw. "Blaine is singing like a canary, trying to cut a deal. Garrett is less cooperative. But there's something you need to see." Something Lorraine had in a safety deposit box. She handed me a phone. A video started playing automatically. It was Lorraine, but before the scars. Alive, but terrified, speaking directly to the camera. "If you're watching this," she said, "I'm probably dead. Or they think I'm dead. Like my sister was supposed to be dead. Like the Morgans. Audrey's parents were supposed to be dead." My hand trembled as faces flashed across the screen. Not just my parents. But others. A dozen other accidents. Other families. All connected to Garrett's rise to power. All people who had stood in his way. "Your sister is awake," Meredith called from the doorway. "And she's talking." I went in. Delilah lay pale against the white sheets, but her eyes were clear. And for the first time in years, they were honest. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "At the gala, just before. Blaine said he got a text. Marcus escaped. He wasn't Blaine, his real name is Marcus. He escaped custody." Before I could respond, Lorraine stepped into the room. The scars on her face caught the fluorescent light. A permanent reminder. "He'll come for the evidence," Lorraine said. "The video. All of it." "Let him," I said. I pulled out my phone. I sent the video file to every contact I had. To every news outlet. To a cloud server. "It's too late to bury the truth now." As if on cue, the lights flickered. Then went out. The hospital was plunged into darkness, then emergency generators hummed to life, casting everything in an eerie, pulsing red glow. Through the window, I saw hospital security running toward the main staircase. "He's here," Meredith said, checking her camera's memory card. "And he's not alone." A gunshot echoed from the stairwell. Then another. "Get Delilah out," I ordered Meredith. "Use the service elevator. Lorraine, go with them." "What about you?" Delilah grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Audrey, please." "I started this," I said, pulling my hand free. "I'll finish it." The door to the room burst open. Marcus stood there, wild-eyed, a gun trained on Lorraine. Behind him, Garrett emerged from the shadows, his arm still bandaged from Meredith's shot. A corrupt guard must have let him out. "The video," Garrett demanded, his voice a low growl. "Delete it. Now." "It's already gone viral," I said, stepping between them and Delilah's bed. "Check your phone. Check any phone." Marcus fired at the ceiling. Plaster rained down. "You think this is a game? Your sister dies next. For real this time. Like you killed Lorraine's sister?" I said, watching his face contort. Or was that supposed to be Lorraine? Hard to tell identical twins apart in a burning car, isn't it? "Shut up." Marcus swung the gun toward me. "Marcus," Garrett's voice carried a warning. "We need her alive." "To what?" Lorraine stepped forward, her voice shaking with rage. "To sign over the company, like you made me sign over mine? Before you tried to kill me? Before you set me up for a divorce from a man I'd never even met, just to tangle my assets?" Another shot rang out. But not from Marcus's gun. He crumpled to the floor. Detective Kowalski stood in the doorway, her weapon steady. Hospitals on lockdown. Garrett didn't hesitate. He lunged for Marcus's fallen gun. I kicked it, sending it skittering under Delilah's bed. He grabbed my throat instead, slamming me against the wall. His one good arm was strong enough. "You," he snarled, his face inches from mine. "You could have had everything. We could have built an empire." "Built on what?" I choked out, clawing at his hand. "Murder? Theft? My sister's guilt?" On survival, his grip tightened, and black spots danced in my vision. "Your parents were weak. Lorraine was weak. But you understand what it takes. You're just like me." "No!" I drove my knee up, hard, into his groin. He roared, his grip loosening. I broke free, stumbling back, gasping for air. As he stumbled, Meredith's camera flashed, a blinding white light that captured his rage, his desperation, his final moment of freedom. Detective Kowalski's handcuffs clicked shut. "Audrey. Morgan." He spat my old name, like poison. Always planning the perfect event. Was this ending perfect enough for you? I looked at Delilah, alive, her eyes wide but safe. At Lorraine, finally free from hiding. At Meredith, documenting every moment of justice. I rubbed my bruised throat. "Actually," I said, my voice hoarse, "I think it could use one final touch." I pulled out my phone. I hit play on the audio file from LeBlanc. His entire confession, his threats, his panic, it all played out in the quiet hospital room, for the detective to hear. I was transmitting live to the FBI agents downstairs, I lied. But it didn't matter. He was done. As they led him away, I sat beside Delilah's bed. I took her hand. The revenge I'd planned had nearly destroyed us both. But maybe in its ashes, we could build something stronger. "I'm sorry," she whispered again. "For everything." "I know," I squeezed her hand. "Me too." Outside, the sirens wailed into the night, carrying away the men who thought they could bury their secrets forever. They never understood. Some truths, they just refused to stay hidden. The courthouse steps felt colder than they should in the spring. It was 3 months later. I watched Garrett and Marcus being led away in handcuffs, their expensive suits replaced by prison orange. Life sentences. No parole. Neither looked back. Men like them never do. Lorraine stood beside me, her scars catching the morning light. "The money's been traced," she said. "The lawyer says they're returning most of it to the victims. All those stolen accounts." "Not everything can be returned," I said, thinking of my parents. Of Lorraine's sister. Of the 8 years I'd lost. "No," she agreed. "But some things can be rebuilt." Inside my new office, the old one held too many ghosts. Delilah was waiting. She'd insisted on coming back to work, even with her arms still in a sling. The design sketches on her desk were different now. Not for weddings or parties. They were for memorials. For community centers. All funded by the recovered money. "The Thompson wedding called," she said, not looking up. She was nervous. "We were still fragile. They want to know if we're still handling their event." "Are we?" I asked. She finally met my eyes. "That depends." "Are we still a team?" The question hung there, carrying the weight of everything. I picked up one of her sketches. It was a garden memorial. 2 intertwined trees, reaching toward the sky. "You designed this, for Mom and Dad," I said, my throat tightening. She nodded, tears threatening. I thought, maybe it's time to build something beautiful from all this ugliness. Meredith burst in, camera in hand, as always. "You need to see this," she said, pulling up a news article on her tablet. They found more evidence in Garrett's private servers. Other accidents. Other families. His network, it's bigger than we thought. Some of his associates are still out there. My heart sank. How many? Dozens. Going back years. And there's something else. Remember that bridge club in Miami? Marcus's mother? She wasn't his mother. She was another victim. Someone who knew too much, replaced by a look-alike. Delilah's hand found mine across the desk. This time, I didn't pull away. What happens now? She asked. I looked at the three women before me. My sister, who'd lost her way but found her courage. My best friend, whose loyalty never, ever wavered. And Lorraine, who'd sacrificed everything to expose the truth. Now, I said, pulling out a new file. We finish what we started. There are other families out there who deserve answers. Other victims who need justice. It's dangerous, Audrey, Meredith warned. Some of these people, they're not just white-collar criminals. So are we, Lorraine's voice carried steel beneath its softness. And we know how to fight back now. A notification pinged on my phone. Detective Kowalski. Requesting a meeting. More evidence had surfaced. More connections to unravel. I can't ask you to risk everything again, I told them. Delilah stood up, her good arm reaching for a fresh sketch pad. You're not asking, Audrey. We're choosing. Meredith raised her camera, capturing the moment. Not a victory. Not revenge. Just four women, choosing to stand together against the shadows that had tried to break them. Besides, Lorraine added, touching her scars, some fights choose you. I looked at my reflection in the window. I remembered the woman who'd planned her revenge with such cold precision. She was still there. But she was changed. Tempered by loss. Strengthened by truth. One condition, I said, turning back to them. We do this right. No more secrets. No more shadows to hide in. Delilah's design took shape on her pad. A phoenix, rising from ashes, its wings spread wide. The Thompson wedding is next week, she said, a hint of her old smile returning. Should we show them how Caldwell sisters throw a party? I picked up my phone to reply to Detective Kowalski. First, I said, a small smile playing on my own lips, we have some other plans to make. This whole journey, it almost broke me. But it showed me what I was made of, and it showed me who my real family is. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, if you've ever felt betrayed but found your strength, please, leave a comment below. I read them all. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it. You're not alone. We'll see you in the next one. And so, as the dust settles and the truth comes to light, we are left with a powerful reminder of the strength it takes to rebuild after betrayal. This story is not just about revenge or justice, it's about resilience, about finding the courage to face the darkest moments and rise stronger. Audrey's journey teaches us that even when the world feels shattered, the pieces can be rearranged into something new, something beautiful, if we dare to try. It also reminds us of the importance of trust, not blind trust, but trust earned through honesty and action. Life will test us, and sometimes, those closest to us may falter. But in the end, it's how we choose to respond that defines us. Forgiveness, accountability, and the will to protect what truly matters can turn even the deepest wounds into lessons of growth. What about you? Have you ever faced a moment that tested your strength or trust? Share your thoughts below or simply comment good if this story resonated with you. Let's continue to inspire and support one another.